Hi, everyone. Hi, Vanessa. Can you hear me very well?
I can. I feel like I'm echoing.
Okay, good. I could do this for you. Hi, everyone. Happy International Women's Day. I'm sure that we've had like tons of messages already, and everywhere's flooded with lots of ads for International Women's Day. But it's never too much to say, right? So happy International Women's Day to all women, definitely. Last year, so this event is co-hosted by Women With Lucky. Women Will Like is a Google initiative, and Ingressive Capital. We're really excited to collaborate with them on this. Last year we had an amazing event, a physical event for Women Will, and it was an amazing experience. We had people like Tosin, Blessing Abeng. They did amazing, and that was physical. But even though that this year's edition is online, we are sure that the experience is going to be as amazing. We have a very interesting lineup of speakers. Ijoma Desaya, Moyo Gunshoinde, Yamo from Invest Bamboo, Layo from Piggyverse. We have Maya, the MD of Ingressive Capital. We have Buki. We have really amazing women here, and they're going to be speaking to us about very, very interesting topics. The theme of the event is Challenge the Status Quo, Achieving an Equal Future. But we are also going to have the keynote speakers speak on really interesting subjects like you defining your future, defining and creating a path for yourself, and just rising to the top and staying to the top. So yes, it's online, but it's going to be really great. So I urge you that you have joined right now, you can go on Twitter, share the YouTube link, right? You can send to WhatsApp group, send to every woman that you can think about right now, and make sure that you stay with us for the next 2 hours as we go through the first keynote speaker, then the panel session, and then the last keynote speaker, right? Vanessa, are you ready to tell us a bit about Ingressive Capital before we go straight and invite Moya to start? Okay, go ahead.
Yes. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Oh, exciting. Finally. Okay. So, hi, everyone, and thank you so much for helping with that piece. This is a collaboration between us and Women Will by Google, and I know that this is a conversation that we all need to have I don't think we need to have it every month, every March, but you know what? It makes sense for us to at least start the conversation. About Ingressive, we are a 10 million VC fund, Fund 1, and a 50 million Fund 2 targeting early stage startup across sub-Saharan Africa. And Ingressive Fund 1 has seeded some Africans' fastest growing businesses, including Paystack, we've sold for 20 million plus to Stripe, 54 Jing, Series A, led by Advance and IFC Fund. We have Tizeti, Series A, led by 40X, 33% of portfolio accounts are female founded, and 31% are Y Combinator alumni. And we have been able to constantly be infiltrating and high impacts participating in companies within Africa and within sub-Saharan Africa and Nigeria. And part of the reasons we wanted to be able to do this is because we believe in the fact that women are making strides. And one of our own is Maya, who is our MD, Maya Hogan Famodu, who is our MD and has been able to significantly make impact in the industry as a VC founder and MD, and two-time Forbes 30 under 30 nominee, United Nations Most Influential Person of African Descent, and worked previously in private equity research at JP Morgan after completing Cornell pre-law program and attending Pomona College. And apart from all the many interesting things that we've been able to say, we've also been able to make some significant impacts around us in the industry, but also significantly making sure that we are pushing and aggregating for women to be part of the decision-making process and be part of the conversations, and we have them on the table. And the women that we have here it's not exclusive to them, but significantly are women who have been making significant impact in their strides, even in the middle of COVID and the pandemic. And I'm sure that Peace had already given that conversation prior. However, I just really want to urge all of us to be a part of this and just like to be to engage in this conversation and just be significantly having the conversations in our corners, our areas, our workplace, and I hope that at the end of the day that we can take something away from this beyond just International Women's Day, and so we had an event. Yeah, so Peace, just come on and let's have a whole conversation and tell us about Women Well and the many great things that they're doing in collaboration, and apart from the collaboration that we're having right now.
Amazing. Thank you for that really, really interesting introduction. Hi, everyone. My name is Pisitimi. I lead the Women Will Lekki community. Women Will is a Grow with Google initiative making an impact in over 49 countries. We're basically about supporting women's economic impact through digital skills and community building. We have 3 core themes areas that we create events and programs to impact women on: digital literacy, entrepreneurship, and leadership. So everything we do is around this. We've had Women Will Lekki for about 2 years now. So this is our second International Women's Day event, but we've had much more events. We are on Instagram, Women Will Lekki, Twitter, Women Will Lekki. We have an amazing, thriving email community and a Slack community. We make sure that whatever we do, that the women in our community, whether they're professionals or just students or they're self-employed, that they have impact, that they have tools, and they have a community that can support them, that they have programs that they can learn from and they can attend, that can basically make them to thrive and make them better leaders in their career, at work, in their business, whether they're creatives, whatever, etc. So yeah, that's what we do at Women Will Lekki. And so I'm really, really excited to be doing this with Progressive Capital because I am a very big fan of Maya and what she does. So Vanessa, thank you so much for thriving to make this happen. And thank you so much.
I'm excited, very excited. Let's have a really good chat. Exciting.
All right. Cool.
I think we're just gonna go ahead and introduce our moderator, who is Yanmo.
So
and then she can take
Moya's
the conversation.
coming up first. So
yes.
Moya's coming up first. So
yeah.
I will just introduce Moya, and when it's time for
okay, then that's fine.
Awesome. All right, cool.
Introduce
Thanks, Vanessa. All right, cool. All right, thank you everybody for joining. I'm seeing a lot of comments on YouTube. You can also just comment and tell us where exactly you're tuning in from. Hi, Jennifer. Hi, Bisola. Oluwatosin, Chika. Thank you so much, guys. Joyce, Aishat, Marinka. Thank you. We can see your comments. So as you're learning from our speakers and from the panels, you feel free to just tell us what you're learning. If you have questions, don't keep your questions to the end. Keep it there. Start commenting on it, and I'll make sure that the speakers or the panelists see your questions so they can answer you during the session. All right. So our first speaker is Moyo, and I'll just introduce her. Moya is somebody that I admire so much. You have no idea. So I'm super excited to have her here. Moya Ogunseide is a chartered architect, designer, and a real estate entrepreneur with a proven record of accomplishment overseeing a substantial real estate investment portfolio. Substantial is the keyword. Currently, she oversees the daily operations of Uraga Real Estate, a leading development firm and a subsidiary of Honeywell Group Limited, which holds a substantial and diverse portfolio in West Africa. In the past, she has designed and project managed one of Lagos' best hotels, the Radisson Blu Anchorage Hotel in Victoria Island, and currently acts as the owner's representative and asset manager. Moya is also the owner and builder of the Orbit Center, which is the first trampoline center in West Africa. So ladies, and I'm sure that there are a couple of gentlemen here, please, wherever you are, just give a very warm welcome to Moya. Hi, Moya.
Hello, Peace.
How you doing?
I'm well. Thank you for introducing me so nicely.
Of course. I'm just going to leave here for you now. You have about 30 minutes, so please change our lives.
Okay. I don't know how I'll do that, but thank you so much, Progressive Capital, for having me. It's a real pleasure. It's an honor to have on this day. When I saw the topic, I really wished I spoke with Vanessa earlier, because if I did, I'll probably have said, like, Vanessa, please change it. But I guess there's a reason why, she chose that topic, and I said I will honor that. The topic is, how do you get to the top, and how do you stay at the top? And it got me thinking really about this notion of the top. what exactly is the top? You know, are we talking about, when you start to talk about the top, it means you're alluding to the fact that there's a scale, there's a bottom, there's a middle, there's a, and there's a top, there's a scale, there's a measurement to success. And I started thinking about, okay, are we talking about the top pre-COVID or post-COVID? When you start, when I started to dimension what top could be, I started realizing that this notion of top that we've been made to have in our minds, this mindset is really, it's a very difficult thing to quantify. And are we talking about top in terms of monetary value? Are we talking about tops in terms of like our family status? Are we talking about top? What top is it? My educational, accolades, my background, my pedigree, my social network. This notion of top really got me thinking, and I said, you know what? Let me just. I know Peace has already told you a bit about my background, and I said, let me just go back and go through my life history and see whether the things I did qualified as top. So I went to a primary school I was born in Ibadan. It's outside Lagos. And, I was there, and I went to secondary school. I was in Kwara State. But, were they top? How did they define my life? Were they chosen because they were the top schools at those times? And in what way were they, if they were top or if they were not top, how did they define my life? I started thinking about the, schools I went to, the universities I went to in the UK. Do they qualify as top? Do they qualify as things that made me who I am today? How were the interactions with the people, my peers, my network? How did they make me? Will I qualify those things as being top? I became a chartered architect. I managed a significant portfolio that Peace alluded to. I managed a significant property in Lagos and several real estate residential properties around, West Africa. So they have substantial value. So does that make me the top of my real estate pursuit? Does that make me, I also have a product design company called Aga Concept. We make African-inspired products. And we're not many in that industry, but does that make me the top in an industry of very few people? I've been doing this for over 25 years since I left university. And what I've come to realize that my 20 years or more of experience and accomplishment in all these things have not really been the things that have really made me. They have been, they've not been, I look at the fact that I also, beyond these things that these accomplishments, these things offered me the opportunity to start sitting on different boards in Lagos State and the federal government, and yes, because I'm sitting in a federal government board, I'm sitting in a Lagos state board. So does that make me the top in my network of peers? Because I happen to sit on a few boards all over, in Lagos State for the government. I happen to sit on a few boards in the private sector as well. So does that really mean I am actually on top? On top of that, forget the point, but I'm also married. I married in my 20s. I have children. And so does that actually mean I am actually on top? So this whole notion that as women, we need to sort of have a scale that makes us start to race against ourselves and others is really, really something that I've realized that I've come to question. I've come to understand that scales, floors, and ceilings that give that make us start to exist in a framework that is outside of our control, that we can't measure, that we try to measure, but we really can't measure. And when we, those scales, once we start to see our significance in those things that are outside of us, and we start to, we start to define our lives by these structures, we start to put ourselves on a race that we'll never win. We'll never get to the so-called top. We give ourselves that we start to give ourselves that mindset of achievement, and we start to wait for the external factors to congratulate us. We start to wait for those external factors to open the doors for us. We start to wait for those external factors to prop us up. We start to wait for those things, that start, to define our lives. And for instance, in reality, there's nothing that dictates that women should be half as great or as amazing as men. But because we've grown up of being in these external frameworks that have made us start to judge ourselves by these frameworks, that we start to limit our potential. The thing here is, too many times in my life personally, I've concentrated too much on the what, on the top, that I've stopped realizing that it's not about the what, it's about the why. It's about why am I here, and why do I do the things I do? By starting to ask these questions of the why, I start to, I really start to have to look inwards, to have an internal compass that starts to get me to think really deeply about my purpose, why I'm here, as it relates to my existence, as it relates to, my family life, as it relates to the impact I want to have with my peers, with my community, with my society, why I'm here, that question of why, where we sit down in our quiet moments, where I have sat down in my quiet moments all along my journey over this 25 years of working life, talk less of, I'm in my 40s, so over 40 years. By asking the question of why, I start to confront, those things that, I look beyond the external things, and I start to confront the self-doubts, the fears, the things and parts of me that start to make me diminish the parts of me, that the fact that I can actually, do things that are not determined by everybody else around me. And I start to realize, and I refuse to let the external system, power, whatever it may be, start to define my life, and boldly, unapologetically go out and start to make the impact I want to make for myself, because I have to impact my life and the community at large. First of all, I've come to realize that by answering that question of why, the various dimensions of my life start to have meaning. So my first reason for my why to get to the, in life, is really to impact, to make a difference, to add value, to leave empty. I mean, I remember hearing that when I was younger. What does it mean to leave empty? But my leaving empty is that sense of having, sat down to know what I'm here for, really look inwards, why I'm called by God to be here. And once I look inside and I start to understand that, I understand my purpose here is to impact people, and I impact people, my children, my husband. I impact through the time I spend with them. I impact through the love I show. I impact through the things I bring, the value I add to them, to my colleagues. It's really more about the things you can't count. Those are the things that have made the most difference to me, and ensure that this top that I'm trying to attain to, that I want to sustain or make, has meaning and is sustainable. So some of the practical steps are this. being the best version of yourself. You know, in asking about the why, we start to be our best version of ourselves and not the best version of others, you know, of what these external things are asking us to. You know, in Nigeria, externally, they're asking women to do a lot of things, to be the perfect wife, perfect partners, perfect mothers, perfect friends, sisters, perfect bosses, perfect everything. But it's not about that. It's about being the best version of ourselves and then growing in confidence. You know, growing in confidence, knowing that, God, L'Oreal said it best, I'm worth it, honestly. We are worth it. We are worth investing in ourselves, and by investing in ourselves, by me investing in myself, I've come to realize that it's helped me grow in confidence in areas that I've never known. And being another thing is being accurately aware of your thoughts and what going into a space where you're actually actively aware of what you need, what you need in life, what your body needs, what your everything, and being obedient to what you hear. So as it pertains to your career, that was very important. I remember trying to choose, a career when I was much younger and trying to decide whether I wanted to be, the only things I saw around me were accountants. And I had this inner compass in me knowing that I can't be an accountant. There's something more. And I remember actually, just because being curious, I was walking around my, my school then, and I bumped into this room where they were painting people. And not because they were painting naked people, which they were, but there was a light bulb moment that I knew that I was made to design, create, and see things in a different way that people do not see. So I thank God that I was able to listen to my inner voice, to recognize that moment and follow that moment. And from that journey, my career path was defined from accountancy. Imagine me, an accountant. Oh God, that would have been very interesting, to being an architect. And then another thing is also, being in the right circle. A circle of friends, companions, family, they really network, they really make a real difference on our lives. And these people are not brought in our lives for any reason, just for any reason. There's real purpose to it. And it's important for us to be mindful of people around us, to ensure that we're around people that build us up, ensure we're around people that support our vision, support our goals, inspire us. And anyone that takes us away, or any situation or any career, anything that takes us away from being the best version of ourselves, it's really important to say stop, listen to ourselves, stop, and redefine those relationships, refine those institutions, and make decisions that will take us on a different trajectory. Now, another thing is, just as I said, I did say it before, it's like listening to your voice, and I'm just also being aware of opportunities when those moments come. It's really important to be aware. It's those things come like in different forms, and I believe as women we have a lot of intuition, and sadly enough, because of the noise of the external factors around us, we really do not listen. And it's really important to still the voice of those things around us. Once we still those voice and we tap into this God-given intuition we as women we start to tap into the opportunities that are ahead of us in any of these dimensions or spheres that we operate in, whether it's in changing a job, whether it's in meeting business partners, whether it's in investment, even in investment, we're here with aggressive capital. And I'm sure, like, as even as as the CEO, Maya, I'm sure she does have that part of her where she knows that when all the matrix have been done, what part of you does she listen to make those decisions that will, that will benefit the company? It is that part of you that, you really should make. It's really that part in you that you can't quantify. And just having that I can do spirit, I can do spirit. The external factors are so against growth. Anything good is knocked down. Any positive news is knocked down. Any great thing, when there's greatness about to happen, when there's something joyful, something peaceful about to happen, when there's something positive, loving about to happen, everything else around starts to work against. So what's important here is just staying like, you know what? The spirit within me, I can do this. I can do this, because I didn't define my top, my yardstick for success as being determined by my external factors, but it's determined by something within me that gives me that that motivation to move ahead when the external factors fail, because they do fail. So to that end, I'm asking myself, today, this International Women's Day was all about, choose to challenge. So I'm going to leave with this and say, I choose to challenge the notion and mindset that makes women feel that there's a race to the top, that we must all meet. And we must all meet at a certain age, certain time, certain race, with certain people and institutions. I choose to challenge that notion. Instead, I choose to propose that top cannot be defined by those things, or can only be defined by the internal purposes we give our, compass. We choose to hold, and those are the things that will create like sustainable growth. Sustainable. I don't want to use that word top, but those things will hold us when the external, definitions of top fail us. Because remember, please, pre-COVID, what was top? We knew the people that were top pre-COVID. We know the people that are top post-COVID. Are they necessarily the same? I know how I was pre-COVID and post-COVID. Was I the top? It's that's not the way. That's not my yardstick. It's really, I'm leaving, this conversation with this, just leaving it within us, all of us, to just challenge what top is, and making sure our top is defined by inner compass and not by everything, to create a sustainable, peaceful, and impactful existence. So I hope I've been able to inspire you as women and men, if you're here. Yeah, thank you so much. I don't know if
Hi, Moyo, that was amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I mean, I think it was really profound. Not just, I can see the comments on YouTube, but personally for me, it was also really profound. And when you started, I was like, okay, I want to see where Moyo is going with it. But just the way you brought everything home, and redefining our thoughts that, hey, we don't have to race towards somewhere. We don't have to feel like we're on a pedestal, or we're competing with other people, even competing with ourselves. It's a thing of, what do I really want for myself? What is my why? Where do I want to go to? What do I define as my own success? And work towards that for myself, not because other people are saying, hey, you're here or you're not there. So thank you so much. That was...
I mean, someone, I've always said this, and a friend of mine, she's probably on this. I'm always like, I say this to her, I'm like, face your front. That's face your front. I think if we face our fronts more, that is a colloquial, phrase. I don't know. It's like, when we face our fronts, we start to realize that the person at the top is not really at the top. I find it, face your front and face your maker, and that will start to give us a perspective of what's really important to us.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Vanessa, do you want to say anything?
We can't hear her.
My mic was muted. Yes, my mic was muted. one of the interesting things we all have to get used to in COVID. Anyway, that being said, yes, thank you very much for saying that. And I really like the fact that you said, I choose to challenge the notion that we must all debunk that need to race to the top headspace. I liked that a lot. And it's interesting because I liked that you kept highlighting what is the meaning of the top? What is the meaning of us getting there? What is the meaning of that? Does it mean it's for my work? Does it mean it's for my business? Does it mean it's for my home? Which is it? This was very interesting, and I really appreciate that we were able to. I like that it was very interactive. Like, it's not very intense, not perspire to aspire type of conversation. It was. I really like that, but I think that I think everyone can relate, and from what we're seeing in the comments, everyone is they can align with what you're saying, and significantly inspired. And it's just one of the things I think we all need to hear at this time, because everyone is doing a lot. It's like you're aspiring and you're pushing and you're driving, and sometimes you're like, well, maybe you need to calm down, relax, and in quotes, face your front. Thank you very much. Yes. Please come on and do the next intro, and just so that we can move on to the panel. Thank you so much, Moya.
Thank you so much, Moya. Have a great evening.
And you.
All right, go.
I'm going well. Thanks.
Okay.
All right, I can go.
So right about now, the next session is the panel session, and we have amazing ladies. I won't introduce them. I will introduce just the moderator of this session. The theme of this session is challenging the status quo, achieving an equal future. And so our moderator is none other than Yamo. I'm still saying Moyo. Is Yamo. Yeah, Yamo is the co-founder and chief operating officer of Event Bamboo. Hi Yamo, how are you doing this evening?
Hi Peace. Hi everyone. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So we're just going to leave the stage for you right now and allow you to introduce the other panelists, and I'll bring them up one by one as you introduce them.
Okay, that sounds good. Hi everyone. Hope you guys are having a good day. Happy International Women's Day. So International Women's Day, how did it come about? The first glimpse of an International Women's Day happening was in 1909, when the Socialist Party of America celebrated 15,000 women who protested long work hours, low pay, and the lack of voting rights in New York City. In 1910, the International Conference of Working Women was held in Copenhagen, and that's where the idea was proposed by Clara Zetkin, a leader of the Women's Office for the Social Democratic Party in Germany. Between 1913 and 1914, women in Russia observed their first Women's Day on February 23rd. Later, it was decided that March 8th is the globally accepted day to celebrate International Women's Day. So that's how we have this day, and that's why we're all here. The theme of this panel today is challenging the status quo and achieving equal future. And we have a couple of amazing women who are going to talk to us more about this and share their views. And hopefully you learn something from them. And more importantly, please leave comments and let us know your own views. So first we have Layo Ogunbawo, who's going to let everyone introduce themselves. So I think everyone will do a better job at introducing themselves than I will. So hi Layo.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
There's an echo. Okay, my name is Layo Ogunbawo. I'm currently the VP of Product Strategy at PiggyVest. Prior to that, I worked at a US healthcare tech company where I did a bunch of different things from products, marketing, etc. I'm also a founder member of Feminist Coalition. So, hi.
Hey. Hi. Okay. Next up we have. Oh, what am I doing? Yeah. Next up we have Ijoma Adesanya, who's.
Hi. Hello. Hi, everyone. So my name is Ijoma Adesanya. I'm currently the founder of Kobicam Africa, which is a gender advisory and advocacy company that I started 4 months ago. Prior to that, I worked in General Electric as a finance manager. And yeah, I'm happy to be here.
Hi, Joma. Okay, so next up we have Buki Akomolafe. I think they're just calling her up.
Hi.
Yeah. Hey, Buki.
How are you?
Good.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Good evening. My name is Buki Akomolafe. I am the country manager for TravelStart. TravelStart is Africa's largest online travel agency. I've been with the company for 4 years now, and I have a marketing background, an MBA, and I've worked in financial services as well.
Yay, happy to have you. And last but not least, we have Maya, who's also a host for tonight. Hi, Maya.
Hello, and thank you guys. Thank my team members for having me. How do I thank myself? No, really excited to be here, and honored to also be on a panel with you all. So looking forward to the conversation, and happy International Women's Day.
Yes, so we're going to just get started. The first question is for everyone, and it's, what would you say are some of the things we need to do to challenge the status quo right now? And I guess, Maya, you can start, and then we'll just go. I don't know what order it is on everyone's screen, but I'm guessing for questions that are for everyone, if we go Maya, Layo, Ijoma, and then Buki, does that work? And then, yeah.
Great, yeah. I think the things that we need to think about in order to challenge the status quo is stop thinking about the status quo and just thinking about what you want to do and executing on it. I know that sounds maybe potentially trite or not consideration of all the barriers, et cetera, that exist. But I think I found in my own experience, the more that I focus on my identity and where I sit within society or where people like me typically sit, and it only functions as something to hold me back. And the more I think about, like, I am an investor, I am a venture capitalist pursuing these things, these are my objectives, the more seamlessly I can get to that target. And then also, I'm hearing an echo. I don't know if anyone else is, but in order to challenge the status quo, I think for whoever you are and whatever gender and whatever age and all of these sort of seemingly potential hindrances or potentials for judgment, just exclusively focusing on the metrics, like, what are you actually doing? What impact have you actually made? How much money have you actually raised? How impactful is your product or service or whatever you're providing to the target demographic you're engaging with? And just being so laser focused on the metrics, on the execution, on the performance that has nothing to do with who you are. That solely has to do with the experience of your user, your consumer, and the business that you're building. So just laser focus on the numbers, laser focus in on the metrics, and let your performance speak for itself.
Okay, that's interesting. And I like what you said, just focusing on the metrics and focusing on, performance as opposed to who you are. Buki, what do you think are some of the stuff we should be doing to challenge the status quo?
Thanks, Yamo. So for me, I actually spend my time when I think about status quo, thinking about microaggressions. So what are these microaggressions that we see every day in society? One of my favorites that happens in an office is that when they come and when it's somebody's birthday and they cut cake, all of a sudden the woman in the office is expected to cut the cake and serve everyone. You cannot understand how much this makes my blood boil. In fact, I may be known or have been known to tell many a female in my office that if I see you near the cake, you will hear from me via other formal means. And the reason I say that is because it's such a random status quo that all of a sudden, if there's cake, if it's a birthday celebration, if there's food in the office, if there's tea to be served, that we don't go after the person who is responsible for that, aka it's part of their job function, but rather we defect all of a sudden to gender and say, well, you have maternal instincts, therefore you can cut a straight line. I will tell you this, I do not know how to cut a cake. All I can do is blow out the sparkly thing, and then after which I just want to eat the cake, the end. And I think it happens with other things as well. So, for me, when I think about the status quo, I don't start at when we're sitting or seated at the table. I start from really small things, from like my husband and I are walking, a security guard will see both of us, they will greet him, and then I will stop and I will say, good afternoon. Am I not a human being? Hello, am I not a human being? You know, things like that. And I think that as we challenge the status quo, what we have to do is actually think about what are the things that are happening in our day-to-day life that we see and that we don't like. If you don't like it, call it out, challenge it, and actually have a conversation with the person. Not everyone understands. Not everyone has come from that background. Not everyone has even thought about it being a different way. It's all they've ever known. So I think that you actually have an opportunity at that point to actually challenge, choose to challenge one, and then challenge that status quo.
I like that. I think everyone has definitely experienced the greeting only the man thing multiple times, especially in Nigeria. So definitely, that's definitely a great one. Yeah, let's say, Ijoma, I think you're next on my screen. So what are some things you think we need to do to challenge the status quo?
I think very similar to what Tosin, to what Buki said. I'll say raise awareness about biases, especially in the workplace. So I have an example very similar to Buki. You know, when people, when you're in a conference room and you're probably the only female there, you're not the most junior, but you're a female, and everyone expects you to sort out the lunch or whatever. And I had this lady tell me that, you know, after a while, she just stopped. Like everyone was looking to her to serve, and she just didn't respond. And after that, it changed the mindset of the men. So I think raising awareness about it, speaking up, don't keep quiet when it happens, because the more we keep quiet, nothing changes. Everything is going to remain the same. So speak up when you experience it, call it out. And even with organizations as well, raising awareness with the men. I feel like we don't have these conversations with men, and it's important that we do that. So yeah, raising awareness and speaking up when you do experience bias.
Okay, yeah, that's a good one. I actually really like that as well. Just like speaking up, having conversations with men and letting them know, which I guess is teaching women. And finally, Lyle, what are things you think we need to do to challenge the status quo?
I think everyone's kind of said everything that I was going to say anyway. But I think in addition to what everyone has said, the big thing for me is just one, raising awareness, but also you yourself being like, you know, aware of the different biases or the different biases and how the status quo is affecting you or what you'd like to change about it. And then, you know, asking questions. So, you know, if someone says this is how it's always been done, why? You know, what about doing it this way? You know, stuff like that. I think, you know, a lot of times people don't like being asked why, because they feel like it's, you know, I don't know, disrespectful or like it's challenging them, but it's good to be challenged, you know. So if we're doing like, so for example, with the example that I think Buki gave, you know, like in the office, why is it always that woman or that, you know, young person that always has to go cut the cake or fetch coffee or whatever? Why? You know, aren't her talents better used for something else? Like, you know, and I think a lot of times because of the kind of society that we all operate in, we bring all of these different biases and like from the home, from church, from, you know, just the environment into the office, and asking ourselves, you know, tough questions. And also, apart from, you know, talking about it as women, I think also asking the men the questions too, because a lot of times they have knee-jerk responses because they think, well, that's how it's always been, you know, but challenging them and asking questions, and then just, you know, also raising some sort of awareness about it.
Okay, that's very, very interesting. I think I like all those responses, and hopefully you guys in the comments are also let us know what you think about stuff we're saying. That's awesome. Maya, so a lot of the conversations that come up in the ecosystem is that female founders aren't being backed by investors in comparison to their male counterparts. And, you know, how do you feel about this? Do you think this is a prejudice, or do you think it's just about supply, that there are just not that many female-led startups?
Yeah, I mean, first, I'm really excited about the initiative that Odun and Iloho have launched that's specifically focused on targeting early stage founders, because I don't think that there's a lack of supply. I think that a lot of times with funding, it's generally a network effect, or it's like generally a network limitation, as in you invest in the people where you either have access to. So it's like where are you sourcing your pools of potential founders from? Or there is a general bias around data points that you're used to seeing that don't necessarily adhere or include the profiles of early stage female founders. I mean, for us, because I can say we're not a female focused investment vehicle. However, 64% of our team is female, and thus about 40% of our portfolio companies are female founded or co-founded. And that's simply from the fact that if you have people who look like the demographic of your target population that you're hoping to invest in, you're more likely to invest in people who look like that. So I would say, like, this whole idea of like supply and there just aren't any women to invest in and blah, 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 blah is just a bunch of nonsense. And I think that if you want to see equitable investing, if you want to see equal investing as far as representation of the population, make sure that your investment team and that your sourcing team and that your diligence team looks like the profile of the people that you hope to invest in.
I like that. I think, yeah, that's a good one. So essentially hire more women. So, funds need to be hiring more women as well in order to be able to invest in them. Bucky, you've been country manager for Travel Start for over a year. Would you say you've seen a lot of women being part of the decision-making process and taking on more senior roles since you started, which, sort of feeds into what Maya just said?
So I'm actually in a very interesting industry where it's actually predominantly female-led. It's very, very interesting. A lot of travel agencies or medium-sized travel agencies actually have either female founders or female CEOs. Now, the most interesting thing happens. You then get to what I would call a more senior executive, AKA we want to take, this is now a travel as a business, right? As a profitable making organization. And then all of a sudden, all the women that you are used to seeing completely disappear. And then you will now become the one or two in the room. It is the most bizarre thing that I've ever seen. And one of the reasons that I have been told is, this age old, when women don't know how to take business seriously, it's a hobby. So back in the day, I think maybe for travel agencies, they men or husbands set up travel agencies for their wives as a hobby, as a fun thing for them to do. And then the more serious and the more structured it becomes, the less women that you see. So for me, it's always just been this very, I can go into a room and see all kinds of women and then go into another room and be like, where are all the people that I know? They're not here. So I think it really depends. I really like what Maya just said. At the end of the day, I think it goes back to representation. Like, what do you want to see and who do you want to be? Right? If there is representation for who you want to be and who you want to see, you'll have them in the room and you'll have them on your team. Right? We're actually more skewed female than we are male in our overall team. I think it's close to maybe like 55 or 60%. I forget the number right now. And so there's no lack for me of females on the team. However, what I do see though, and it's something that COVID has caused, and I don't know if we'll talk about this later down the line, but just a precursor is that COVID has really impacted women, predominantly women with children, predominantly women with young children, in the fact that they have not only become, had to, hit the target on their corporate job, right, which has already been really, really difficult if you weren't laid off. Then, you've also had to be school teacher because all the schools are online. And so now you need multiple devices. And then in addition to that, you're still home caretaker, maybe for your parents or grandparents who live in your house with you. So the pressures have been immense. In fact, I would probably say from, I don't have a percentage, but if I had to guess, I'd probably say about 100% fold how much the pressures have been this past year. And so I'm curious to, I don't know if we're going to talk about that later, but that's something that's just been weighing heavily on my mind is how do we support our female staff who are in these positions, but we still as a business have KPIs to hit? How are we both understanding, empathetic, but also very clear about what it will take to navigate us out of this terrible, terrible time, because the aviation industry is probably one of the hardest hit, thanks to COVID.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to talk about that a little further down the line, but I think that you just brought up something, so we'll skip some stuff around. So there's something called, according to the International Labour Organization, mothers of children aged 0 to 5 years old suffer an employment penalty, while fathers are reported to have the highest employment to population ratio in the world. So apparently it's called the motherhood employment penalty and fatherhood employment premium. And after Africa, Europe and Asia suffer a number of parenthood employment gaps. And that brings Ijoma and Muyo. As moms, what are your thoughts on this? I think that fits.
So I'll speak generally from my experience. I remember when I had my first child and I came back to the office and my role didn't exist anymore. So yeah, these are real challenges that women face when they have children. So I came back to the office and my role didn't exist anymore because there had been some restructuring and all of that. So yeah, women do struggle, after having children in some instances, and organizations actually definitely need to do better in just making sure that they cover for them when they're on maternity. I mean, I don't think it should be legal for a woman to go off maternity and come back and not have a job. So that happened to me, but in a couple of months after that, I got another role within the same company. But yeah, I feel like there should be some level of protection for women in instances like that, but it does happen. And the men it has no effect on them whatsoever, because I mean, even I think we just started paternity leave now, and it's just like 1 week. Women are off work for the longest time, 1 week, 2 weeks max. And women are off work for the longest time. And then usually when you come back, you have to, sorry, there's an echo. But usually when you come back, you have to kind of get into things again. You have to understand where the business is, because things are changing, things are moving constantly. And so when you come back, you almost have to relearn everything and then, find your foot back in again. So it's a real struggle and it's a real thing, actually.
Okay, that's interesting. And Buki, from working in like a female, in a more female-dominated industry, like you said, have you seen are there any things you've seen work to help support mothers? Because I mean, if it says 0 to 5 years is quite a long time for women to be lagging behind.
Yeah, so I really like what Ijoma just said, because what's also interesting, and maybe a part that we don't necessarily talk about. So look, men definitely have a part to play, and a larger part than women do. But there are also women who struggle with understanding. Why? Because every woman has a very different experience of pregnancy. Even something like as simple as menstruation can differ from women to women. So I was diagnosed with, stage 1 endometriosis. If my mother is on this line, she's probably going to start texting me soon. But with stage 1 endometriosis a couple of years ago. And so I struggle. In fact, I always, at my previous job, there was 1 week of every month I was missing. As in I will miss, as in I'm not even there. Right? I'm not because of something that's going to happen to me because of my gender. I'm not even available. And so one of the things that I always struggle with, and even I would say I struggle with this as well now as a female leader seated at the table, is what is the balance between being empathetic, knowing that the business has to grow, knowing that one of my top staff, let's call her Ijoma, is out now for the next 3 months or probably 4 months, and the business has to stay alive. And I've got to keep things going as well. And I also still got to keep her position at the same time. I think it's really, really difficult and really, really, really challenging. And sometimes we don't also call out women as well. You just say, she has come again. If it's a man now, you say, you challenge it and say, oh, this is, but sometimes with women, you're like, it's a little bit, we almost go to more of the catty side as to why she doesn't understand. No, she might not understand because she just doesn't understand. It's just a completely very, very different thing. I don't know if that answers your question, but for me, it's just sort of the things that I think about. And even at Cedar right now, force myself to say, what is the other side of the spectrum of this that would help this person survive? Given that if their child is between 0 and 5, there's fundamentally nothing they can do to put the child in front of a TV or a laptop or anything for longer than like 5, 10, 15 seconds. And then if they don't have childcare, which, with COVID, a lot of people were nervous about bringing people into their household, or a lot of people are nervous about going into people's households. How do you manage that?
Okay, that's very interesting. And I think that's a good one in terms of managing the balance, etc. Hey Maya, so when we talk about women bagging less investments than male founders, do you think this is etched in the mentality that women actively involved in tech are often seen as engaging in a hobby rather than pursuing a career? Or do you think it's bigger than that?
You said engaging in a copy?
A hobby.
Oh. I mean, these statements just aren't relevant for me because I don't in any capacity see this, and I don't really engage with people who are making statements like this. And I really don't think people would feel comfortable saying things like women are engaging a hobby as opposed to starting a business. And I think people would know the response if they said something like that to me. So yeah, I don't have a lot of feedback on statements like that. And I don't think they're generally productive. And I don't even want to entertain something that's like assuming that women are only capable of hobbies as their entrepreneurial endeavors. I mean, on the continent itself, that's the highest rates of entrepreneurship from female founders in the world, unquestionably. So you look at of every telecommunications, banking, like every publicly listed organization, there's at least a female C-suite member, as well as the initiative, at least in Nigeria, to push for 30+% female representation in boards, and Rwanda is significantly above that 50% currently, and Ethiopia is above 50%. So no, I just think those are nonsense statements, and I don't think that people who practice those ideals and are perpetuating those beliefs have any part in the technology of tomorrow. And I think that increasingly, like there's First Round Capital did the analysis their portfolios, of their historical portfolios, and found that companies with at least one female decision-making, like female co-founder, had 67% or 60+% higher IRR than their all male counterparts. And so I think actually practically those who are participating in conversations like that are just going to start realizing that they're losing a lot of money, and whether or not they have their own biases or have to work through whatever misogyny that they're participating in, those who are going to be making the most money in the investment space and going to be realizing the most returns as founders will be those led by or co-led by women. And these are just like facts that we're seeing increasingly. And also to be ignoring the incredible wealth that is held by women globally is just nonsensical. So I don't agree with that statement. Obviously, I think that if there's anything that can increase women's representation in the technology space, I don't think it's for lack of women being intelligent or ambitious or blah blah blah. I think there are very real cultural practices that prohibit women from participating, even with our technical training programs. From things like, I can't be earning more than my husband, or I have to be home at a specific time for my family, et cetera, et cetera. I think we need to really rethink our cultural limitations that are really in limiting women and their advancement, thus limiting the advancement of the nation as a whole and the innovation that can occur within. So I would challenge us to consider our cultural norms and the things that we accept in our household, because I think that's the real limitation. It has nothing to do with women and their capacity.
Okay, thanks, Maya. That's good. I like that. Hi, Lyle. So you're the VP of Product at PiggyVest, and I guess that feeds into just feeding off what Maya said about technical training programs and different cultural things that are ingrained in us. What are the challenges you faced in your field, in technology field, and how have you been able to navigate it?
Great question. So I think, one of the, I guess, very first challenges that I faced was just, with being in like tech or like in product, primarily, it's just, what you're talking about, just like regular stuff that I guess women in different workplaces go through. So you could be in, or I have been in meetings where I'm presenting an idea or something, and it's like, yeah. And then, somebody else, a guy, says the exact same thing that I said verbatim. And it's like, wow, that's so amazing. Those types of things, I've had to face them. Or, when I'm a big fan of, working hard and having really high standards, but I also feel like we should also question the standards that we put on women. So, there's always this unspoken thing with how women are meant to be perfect all the time, always be on point, never have a hair out of place. I think that's BS. So like very early in my career, I went through that, and I didn't know that was what was happening until like much later, when I started to like actually challenge and, ask. I mean, I don't mind doing hard work. I'm happy to, get down and dirty and, get my hands dirty to get work done. But putting it's not even unfair, but just putting unwarranted expectations on me that are not, also put on other team members or other people that are at my same level. And then when it's very clear that, it's either because of the color of my skin or because I'm a woman, those things, I had to face that as well too. I think for me, because I've worked in the States and then also, worked in Nigeria too, it can be very different experiences. For me in America, it was very much so because I was a Black person, a Black woman. In Nigeria, coming back home, it was very, very much about just the fact that I'm a woman. So having to, even things like having to choose how you say certain things, I've found myself, saying, okay, should I say it this way? Or, let me change this word into a less threatening word, let me try to soften it, even though it's the same damn message that I'm trying to pass across. So yeah, I'm not sure if that answers the question, or I think I just gave a bunch of examples, but with how I've like challenged it, or like how I've come, like how I have like coped with it. It's just, I can't change that I'm a woman. I can't change that I'm a Black woman, or that I'm an African woman. And I'm not going to apologize for those things that I am. The things that I do terrible, I would own that, obviously. The areas that I can grow, I'm very open to that as well too. But I'm very conscious of not taking people's criticism of me to heart as, this is who I am. Because most times people just projecting the insecurities and BS on me.
Thanks, Lyle. Yeah, I really liked what you said about unnecessary expectations, particularly on women. Because I genuinely believe that as well. Like, we can't be magic every day. Some days you're tired, some days you need a break, and that's okay. I think everyone you can't be a power woman every single day. Ijoma, very interestingly, you worked at GE for a while before deciding to step down and focus on founding other businesses, including Kobicam, gender advisory and advocacy consultancy. What prompted you to make that decision, and what has been your experience so far?
So I think the story of this is actually quite apt to the topic that we're discussing now, challenging the status quo. So literally, I studied accounting in university. Sorry, there's an echo. I'm not sure where it's coming from. So I studied accounting in university, and I went on immediately to do a master's in business analytics and consulting. And just to point that out, in hindsight, I wouldn't have done a master's just immediately, because obviously you need to kind of understand who you are and what you want to do. So I did that. I moved to Nigeria, and obviously the first thing I did was find an accounting role. And if you think about it, of course, that's what I'm going to do, because that's what, I studied, and that's the mindset, that we have. And so I did that, and then I did my NYC, got a job in GE, and I've been there for 8 years in finance. But at the end of 2019, I was just thinking about my life and just deciding that in 2020, I wanted to be very intentional about my life and my journey. Where do I see myself in 10 years? What do I love doing? What excites me? What motivates me? And so that's how I started, really thinking about how long I wanted to stay in GE for as well. And something that I thought about, or something that jumped at me, was I couldn't see anyone that I wanted to be like. So I didn't see any position that I wanted to emulate. I didn't see any roles that, if you gave me this role, I'll be so excited. Or my boss, I wanted to be the CFO at some point. It just wasn't an aspiration for me. And so I just asked myself, if you don't see that, then why are you here? And so that was when I decided, that I was going to leave. And I had set a date for the 1st of September. And that was in December 2019. And on 1st of September, I did resign. But before that, I took a course in public policy, and it really opened my eyes up to policy and how I can use that to effect change. Now, the next question was, what kind of change did I want to effect? And everybody that knows me knows I'm passionate about women. I'm passionate about empowering women, passionate about encouraging women especially. And so that's how I came about COBICAM Africa, which is gender advisory and advocacy. So there are 3 platforms for us. There's the individual level, private sector, and public sector. And the private sector is really about building a culture of unconscious bias in the workplace. And so we do this through trainings and workshops and policy audits as well. So that was something that I was very passionate about and I wanted to do. Now, in terms of how the experience has been so far, I would say, obviously, there's been a lot of learning, a lot of connecting with women. So I did this thing where I was giving free coaching sessions to women across Africa. And I just noticed that there's a lot of work to be done. A lot of female entrepreneurs are not, confident in what they're doing. They're not as, empowered as they should be. But it was really interesting, and I really learned a lot connecting with women from across Africa. And so it's generally been a great experience. I'm learning to put structure, take bold steps. And yeah, so that's the story for how COBICAM Africa started.
Oh, that's quite interesting. And then a follow-on question to that, though, would be, do you think, we're all having enough conversations tackling gender issues in the workplace? So,
definitely not. If we're ever having any conversations whatsoever, and it's a conversation that needs to be had. It just needs to be had, because if we don't do anything about it, we don't expect it to just magically disappear. Something I always talk about is, even in terms of recruitment, if companies don't decide that, I'm going to put a cap on the amount of men versus women that I hire. I'm not saying that if the women are not qualified, you should still hire them. That's not what we're saying. We're saying that, you should be more conscious of the fact that just maybe you're hiring more men than women, and, women might actually have the opportunity or have more qualifications than the men do. And one way to tackle that is having, for example, blind recruitment process. So taking out, the names at the CV screening stage. If you don't know if this person is male or female, or, anything like that, you'll be surprised the amount of women that will move on to the next stage. So just little things like that. I feel like, the conversations are not being had enough, if at all.
Okay, so I guess all of us here at least know we need to know. Ijoma definitely thinks we all need to do better. And I think we probably all definitely agree. Layo, as a founding member of the Feminist Coalition, do you think there are negative stereotypes of feminism generally, and especially in the workplace? And if you do, what are the ways you think we can counteract those? So I guess the first question is, do you think the feminism has negative stereotypes? So if a woman comes in an office and says, I'm a feminist, do you think there's a negative and how do you think we should tackle that?
So who is tackling it? Me as a woman, or the person who's offended about, a woman calling us a feminist? Because I'm not tackling it. Because that sounds like a personal problem. Why do you have an issue with someone calling herself a feminist? How, like, is she killing you? Like, for real? Like, what's your problem? Whew, great question. I don't think I don't think any woman should have to reduce herself or downplay who she is or what her beliefs are. I think that even thinking that there is a negative, and this is not like you, but like just in general, just thinking that there's a negative perception or whatever that comes with, being a feminist. I think that's the problem, actually. So people should be asking themselves, why do they feel so strongly about this thing, right? I actually had a conversation with someone today about this, but in general, it's like when people are challenging something that's always been the way, it's been, instead of trying to attack that person, we should ask ourselves, okay, why am I having such a visceral reaction to this thing? That in itself, to me, is indicative that there's a problem, right? So if a woman is a feminist, how is it your problem? Like, really? And I don't think it's on the woman to then try to make her feminism palatable for somebody. No, like, no, that's BS. So I think, it's the people who have a problem with it that need to educate themselves, like, and be honest with themselves too, actually. So why do you have an issue with it? Really? Like, why? And most times you find that they can't actually answer that. They don't have any responses to that, or the responses make no sense.
Yeah, I think I like that too. Like, generally, that's how I feel as well. Like, if you have a problem with it, just find out why you have a problem with it. But I think sometimes there are also women who don't feel comfortable and, strong in owning that, yes, I'm a feminist, yes, I believe, and then they try and, I think people try and hide it from the word, like, oh yes, I wouldn't say I'm a feminist, but women and men should be equal, so those sort of things also.
I think that, and I agree with you. There's you find cases where that's, what it is or what happens. And what I would say to the woman is, okay, so what's the problem? Why aren't you comfortable with it? And then what you find is that it's because, she probably, doesn't want to be on the receiving end of some person's irritation, or is still trying to be likable, so doesn't, want to step on toes, things like that. Because when you what is so wrong in thinking and believing that as a woman, I should have the same access and rights to everything that a man has? If anybody has a problem with that, then they need to go sit down and think about it, because, and I'm not very coherent right now, because, these types of conversations like always like boggle my mind. But I think it's one of those things where the woman who isn't comfortable, like, with, declaring out and loud and proud that she's a feminist, I sympathize, and, at some point she would get to the point where she'll be loud and proud, because sexism will slap you in the face in the workplace or in Nigeria, or, your driver would, just say something ridiculous to you. And it would humble you to make you realize, you know what, the thing that I'm trying to hide from, or that I'm trying to mold myself into not being, this angry woman, or this one who's always fighting, those people don't actually care about me or care about my progress or my happiness, right? So yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah. Okay. I really, really like that, actually. For everyone watching, Maya had to drop off, unfortunately, so it's just 4 of us left. But should still be a good conversation. And so for everyone, the next question I'm just going to ask the question, and then I'm going to give us some time to think about it, is, women are often described as bossy, for probably the same reaction where men will be said to be just demonstrating leadership skills. And while we all have biases, what are some of the unconscious biases that you think need to be changed? generally. And while I give you guys some time to think about it, I'm going to read some of the questions from the comment section. So read some of the comments because the audience has been quite entertaining and taking part in the conversation. Vanessa says men need to be part of the conversation too. I think we definitely all agree on that. And Chioma said, yes, hello ladies. A way to tackle the challenge of women still having the positions after their maternity leave is to hire personnel to cover up temporarily within the woman's period of absence. So she thinks temps would be a good way. And, you know, there's probably pros and cons to that as well, but that's an interesting point of view. I think Temitope said something we all agree with, that there are unrealistic expectations for women to have a perfect balance in all areas, work, home, business, and just life in general. And I think, you know, we definitely all agree with it. And that's one of those things where we're trying to normalize not being perfect. I think that's also very, very important here. So yeah, if we go back to our fantastic panelists, what are some unconscious biases that you think we need to change? I guess maybe Buki, do you want to start?
Sorry, the last comment actually caught me. The guy who's written the comment that I would like to address. But can you just repeat the question? Because I suspect the two will go very well together. Can you just tell me the question again?
It's okay. Well, yeah. So, what are some? Like I said, some women are described as bossy, while men are just demonstrating leadership skills. And since we all have biases, I think we all agree on that. What are some of the unconscious biases that you think need to change generally?
Yes. So this comment that says, and I'm going to read it out, which says, I think there are women who take feminism to the extreme by hating on men. Whenever I see this comment, I always like to ask for examples. Like, give me an example of a time or of a woman who has done something that you consider a feminist action, and then how that relates or correlates to hating on men. And then, we then have to explain causation is not equal to correlation. I think when we talk about unconscious biases, a lot of this is stemmed from this very comment of, if you are in a meeting and you hold a room and if you speak clearly and assertively, then therefore you must be bossy. Therefore you must be, in fact, I heard this the other day about myself and I loved it in the meeting. I was called autocratic. And I said, oh, that's fantastic. That's the first time I've heard that one. I'm going to keep it. And if in case he thought it was a compliment, it certainly wasn't. Because what I was saying to him, and I hope that he got, was that our counterpart colleague, who's probably more autocratic or assertive than I am, you never describe him as that. He's always bold. He's showing leadership skills. He's showing direction. He's telling you exactly the way that we should go. And all of a sudden, if you as a woman do the exact same thing, it is all of a sudden drawn as a correlation to hating men. She must hate men is why she is so autocratic, why she's so bossy, why she's so showing so much leadership. For me, my parents did not send me to all of the schools that they sent me to come and cower in front of anyone or in any meeting. The whole purpose of the education that I was fortunate enough to get was so that I could hold rooms and have conversations. The whole purpose of learning from not just male and female colleagues is so that I can speak with knowledge and be knowledgeable about a specific topic. That's what experience is about. So really, when we talk about these sort of unconscious biases, I think it really even goes back to, it can go back to as young as when you were in your family. How were you raised, right? What did you see your mother do? What did you see your father do? How has that shaped or sharpened how you think about roles of gender in society? Some people even carry that as far as into their office, as I gave you with the cake scenario. Only women serve. Therefore, only the female colleagues. Therefore, if I even have a female CEO, I won't ask her to serve because is rude. Because in Nigeria, not only do we do gender, we now also have hierarchy. So depending on where you fall as a woman, they will then sort of help to slot you in. But I can ask maybe the EA or somebody that I feel her job is not as important as I am. And really, it's actually that thought of, X, usually woman, is not as important as I am, and therefore, how dare she have such an opinion? And that's actually what people have to start unlearning. And if you want to challenge or change any status quo, we've really got to start unlearning some things. And like Lyle said, this comes from society, this comes from church, this comes from your parental background. We as a community have to do everything together, top, middle, and bottom, to be able to get it to work.
Thank you so much for that, Buki. I think you sort of said what all of us are thinking. So we'll just move on to the next question, which is going to be for Ijoma. So we have, fantastic ladies on this panel who are bossing it and who are doing great things. We have, Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala just became the first female and also African direct DG of the World Trade Organization. We have people like Bozeman St. John, CMO of Netflix, and so on. And what do you think we can do to make sure more women have the opportunity and access to high-level roles and positions?
So I'd say one thing I can think of is we need to celebrate women's achievements more, right? I don't know if you've noticed that, with women, we tend to not want to show what we're doing, not be as visible as possible, because we feel like, oh, it'll look like I'm proud, or, I'm not, I'm being too assertive or whatever. But we need to make sure that women are visible. And in being visible, they would be able to get leadership positions. So that's one thing I would say. Another thing I would say is what I explained about my accounting background and everything. If you have people doing jobs that they are not passionate about, it will be very hard for them to get leadership positions, right? So it's getting to that point where, women are bold enough to, or we encourage women to be bold enough to do what they feel like doing, I mean, when I stepped out to do gender advisory and advocacy, what is that? I mean, if you tell my parents, they're like, what does that mean, But it's encouraging women to do what they love doing. I mean, Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, if she wasn't enjoying what she was doing, I doubt that she would get to where she is. If she wasn't visible, I doubt that she'll be where she is now. If she wasn't owning in on her strengths, I doubt that she'll be where she is now. So I think those are the things, like visibility, knowing your strengths, identifying your strengths, and also just celebrating women, making sure women are more visible in their achievements as well.
Yeah, I really like that actually, Ijoma, about celebrating women. I saw something today about, I think it's something that launched, they call Document Women. And I actually really liked it. I like the idea of, women who, I haven't looked up, I just saw it on my feed, someone was talking about it. And I like the whole idea of just celebrating and, documenting women's achievements and the women who are actually doing great things. I think that'll go a long way in reminding people and, encouraging more people, etc. I think, wait, Lai, you are part of that, right? Was that in my head?
Yes, I am.
Oh, okay. How random. Because I mean, when I was saying it, it was about wait. Okay, yeah, I love it. It's fantastic.
Thank you.
It's really, really cool. So, and as we talk about that generally, and Laya, this last question is for you. Would you say COVID and the past year of especially working from home, all of that has affected or amended your work-life balance? And what are do you have any self-care tips for us as we go?
So in the beginning, it was crazy, obviously, like everybody. Yeah, I don't think I had a routine at first. And then, because you were always on, at least I was always on, so always responding to messages, WhatsApp, Slack, whatever. But then realizing, as I accepted that, okay, well, we're going to be in this for a very long time. I started to put in some sort of routine in place. So, I started to go to bed early as opposed to waiting till 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. in the morning. I started going to bed early. I started, scheduling time to actually work out, which is good for me. At least for me, it was good because I got to sweat out, stress or distress, and then, activate some happy hormones, so endorphins. But I think one of the biggest things that's, helped me keep sane is just having great support system, having my friends. So knowing that I can just schedule a call with somebody, if I'm just feeling down and out. I live with my sister, so that's always good. So I can just go knock on her door. Yeah. So I think with self-care tips, what I would say is, don't neglect sleeping. Sleeping is super important. Also, working out or just being active. You could just be you could power walk on your street, stuff like that. And then also just because we're still social distancing at this, well, not anymore, but back then, sometimes, at least for me, it felt like, okay, everyone is just so far away, but knowing that you can just FaceTime your friend, or WhatsApp call or whatever, right? Just have some sort of interaction with people. That helped me a lot too. So I would definitely recommend that.
Hey, that is fantastic, and thanks for the tips. So this comes to the end of our panel session. Thank you guys so much. You guys have been amazing panelists, and thank everyone in the audience. Thanks for taking part. Thanks for your comments. Hope you learned something, because I definitely did. And yes, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay. All right. All right. Thank you guys very much for this. That was such an amazing panel, and great job, Nyano. Thank you so much, Maya. Thank you so much, Buki. Thank you so much, Lyle. Thank you so much, Ikema. That was such a great chat. I, in all honesty, didn't want it to end. And I'm excited that we're able to do this. And in all honesty, I just hope that we continue to have this type of conversations come up. But that being said, we just introduce our keynote speaker, who is Tracy Ndorotwe, and she's the force we're working with. Beyond all the amazing things that she's doing, she also, founded Bloom Africa, which is one of the most interesting places where you can have women who are, coming together to support each other. And it's one of the things we'll be able to achieve. One of the things we need to acknowledge, be a part of. I remember the first time that I'd come across Bloom Africa, and they had some of my favorite women, Lovia Jay, Yvonne, and a bunch of other women who were coming, and I was just super excited to be part of that, to be part of that conversation, and everything that happened. It's something like this just for COVID, and yeah, it happened, and we were just excited to have that. And I watched that, and since then, Bloom Africa has been doing some amazing work. And so since here, exciting! Hi, how are you? I think you need to unmute yourself. Yeah, so unmute yourself. Still can't hear you.
I'm acting like an old person, like when my mom gets on Zoom and she's just talking. You're like, Mom, please, on your mic. Thank you guys for having me.
It's okay.
Yeah.
The first time that I had, when, I think you just launched Bloom Africa, and you had all these amazing women coming, especially women from the, in quotes, abroad, and they had come together, and they had that amazing event that you had, and I was talking about how I was very inspired by that, and how that has been an upward moving process for you, and we're glad to have you here to do this. So you have the floor, and I gotta go.
Thank you, Vanessa. Thank you, everyone that's here. Thank you for taking time out of your evening, because I am a huge valuer, if there's such a word, of people's time. And so I always honor your time, and I always say thank you for choosing to spend it the way that you have decided tonight. So my topic today is about defining yourself so that you can change the world. And when I was thinking about this topic, I'll be honest, it's not a foreign topic to me at all. If anyone that's been to the Bloom Africa's retreats will tell you that this is the core of what we are there to do. So a little bit just about myself. I'm the CEO of Concilia Advisory, and my purpose in this journey called life is to use my skills, my talents, and my strengths to impact the world around me. I manifest that in many different ways through the Bloom Africa, through Power Girls Africa, which is the mentorship program for teenage girls. We've done 2 years of that. Now I have 15 mentees that I love, 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 love. And also through my job where I have clients such as Microsoft, and I help to work with startups that Microsoft can partner and invest in, right? So if you have a tech company that you think is promising and you would like to find out about how Microsoft can impact your business, I'm the girl for you. So I always like to lead by just sharing the gifts that I bring, because I feel that everyone has gifts, right? Everyone does. Every single person that I've met has a gift. I always say that God is not unintelligent. He's the utmost intelligent being and source of everything. And so why would we ever think that we are here by some kind of mistake? Like the thing just happened by mistake and boom, you're here. We know in our hearts, regardless of, and I always tell people that I make room for all kinds of religious beliefs, right? Because again, that's my ego taking a backseat to say everyone has their belief, but in whatever sort of belief structure you have, there's this sense of a higher being. And so I can't talk about my story without referencing the higher being. And in saying this, it leads me to what I want to talk about today, which is discovering your purpose. For you to be able to define yourself, you need to know what your why is. And then you need to know what your I am is. I am is your gift. What do you bring? What are you here to offer? How are you here to change, even if it's one life? What is your why while you are here? I think a lot of us spend so much time, honestly, just kind of, I think, going in circles a little bit. There's a quote, I'm a walking quote library. I read and I absorb random quotes that help me when I'm thinking through things. And one of them is by Bill Copeland, and it says that you can spend your whole life running up and down the field and never score a goal, right? Because if you don't know where the goal is, you don't know where to score. And so I always ask people, how often do you take an audit of your own life? How often do you question your own self, your own beliefs, your behavior patterns, who you are, how you're presenting in the world? So many of us sometimes avoid that. And I always tell people that, when you work for a company or an organization and they ask you, what are your KPIs? What's your company's mission statement? What's your company's P&L? You will be just spitting out numbers. You know everything. You know who's who. You know what we're trying to do next and what our 3-year plan is. You know those things. But if I turn around and I ask you the same question for your life, and I said, what's your KPI? What's your mission? What are you here to do? What's your 3-year plan? I don't know. It's just, just taking it day by day. I said, okay. Because I do understand the need to obviously understand that there's a lot that's out of our control. I think if anything that 2020 taught us is that there's a lot that's out of our control. But on the flip side, what 2020 taught me is that there's a lot that's within my control. My mindset, the things that I focus on, the things that I use my hands for, the things that I invest in, the people that I spend time with. These are things that I get to control, and these things have an impact on my destiny, on my path, And so I always tell people it's worth the exercise to pause and ask yourself critical questions. And I think if we're talking about this, International Women's Day, choosing to challenge, you guys, I cannot talk about empowering women if I'm not talking about empowering yourself first. There's no way that you can be who you're supposed to be if you've not done the inner work if you've not addressed yourself, your life, the decisions that you've made, and maybe you want to make some new decisions, maybe you're afraid. There's so much you have to do with yourself, first and foremost, before we can start telling you about, oh, this is what we need to do as women. How are you even interacting with other women? What are some stories you've told yourself around that? How is that working out for you? How's your inner circle? These are audit questions that I always ask people. You have to ask yourself. You have to face yourself and put a mirror in front of yourself. And that is going back to defining who you are. So one of the things that I talk about a lot is this idea of purpose. And like I said earlier, for me, as somebody who believes in a higher power, you cannot convince me, no matter what, that I'm here by some error. That there was like a glitch in the system. I just landed here and there's nothing here for me to do. I can't accept that, because when I look around and I see nature and trees and different types of miracles, childbirth, these things are deep things. They are things that we must honor for what they are. And so I know that as part of that system, there's no way that I'm here by mistake. But what I don't understand is when people say, I have to go and find my purpose. It's as though it's lost, right? When you have to go out and find something, it's like, did you lose it? You never lost it. It's within you. Most likely what's happening is that you're not paying attention to it, you are afraid of it, or you're ignoring it. You know, there's a sense you have, but not now, later. Or I don't even think I would be good at it, fair, you know? Or sometimes you don't even recognize it because you've not taken time to be still and to know. That's my favorite verse, be still and know. Because and if you think about that verse, for me, it talks about this innate power that I think is especially real in women, is that intuition. We know a lot of things. We know a lot of things. I think it's, you know, and we've all been there as women. We know things. We know about this guy that we're talking to. We know that something is off, but we'll keep telling ourselves, no, I'm overthinking. We question that inner knowing. And the more we do it, the quieter it becomes, because we're not exercising it. We're not trusting it. We're telling it to shut up. We're telling it to go away. So how does that develop as one of your superpowers? It doesn't. It just gets quiet until you can't even hear it anymore. It doesn't guide your decisions anymore. But what I'm here to tell you guys is that, and this is something I've been practicing for 9 years, you know, I go through a self-audit process, and I'll give you some thoughts around, you know, how I do that and helping me define who I am, why I'm here, and how I'm going to do things, you know, not how anyone else is doing it, how Tosin is going to do it. It's a whole different kind of race that I'm running. It's just me against me. And it's been like that for a long time. So I do these audits, you know, some people call it vision boarding. I call it gratitude boarding. You can call it whatever you want, but it's taken that time, but in a way that's not superficial, in a way that is honest, in a way that allows you to see yourself for who you are. And sometimes, you know, people need to tap into therapy. I've been saying that therapy right now is a new rich auntie move. I'm telling you, I don't know about the designer bags anymore, but sis, if you're not in therapy, we are side-eyeing you, right? It's like, it's time for us, the same amount of money that you spend on grooming yourself on the outside, you gotta put the same amount into grooming yourself inside. It has to be. And it's not to say that you're gonna be perfect. I'm not perfect. I always say I'm stitched with flaws and good intentions. But the point that I'm making is that you must, what I'm about to say next, you won't understand it. You'll be lost. You won't have a concept of what I'm talking about. So what am I talking about is to say, in that self-audit, in that moment, which for me, I do it at the beginning of every year I question Tosin. Every year I hold Tosin accountable. Every year Tosin has questions to answer about, I don't know, what are you doing right now? How do you feel? Where are you trying to go this year? What are you trying to do? You have to question yourself, guys. It doesn't make any sense. I always tell people that our cell phones, they get more updates than we do. Do you know how many times your phone will be saying updates, iOS, something, dot, something, because they're constantly thinking, what does this phone need? What doesn't it have? What has expired or is no longer useful? let's take that out. What's a bug in this thing? You know, I'm in tech, so I think like that too. So for me, it's like, how can our phones be getting better almost every week? And we're here saying, this is who I am. I am who I am. Nobody can tell me anything. Who are you? Do you even know who you are? So many of you are, you know, there's a quote by T.D. Jakes that says, don't trust your feelings. Your feelings are a combination of your life's experiences. You're not the truth about you. Your feelings are no indication of your destiny. Your feelings are just an indication of your past. So that's why I say therapy, inner reflection, introspection, confronting your bad habits, the things you know you need to work on. You know what they are. I don't have to tell you, you know. If you can't figure out a way to better yourself constantly every year, and by the way, I'm not asking you to go and do something major. You know, I always tell people when they come to my retreat, listen, if you leave with 2 or 3 goals, that's enough for me. Focus on your focus. Drill down on what it is that you want to be, because you know what? Where your energy flows is where things grow, period. So if it's your health, if it's your intellectual capacity, if it's your emotions and how you regulate that, or if it's your relationships and how you manage that, you know where to go. You know how to ask for therapy. You know how to talk to your mentors. You know how to say apologies and try to do better. You know what to do, right? So that's where we start, is with you. We start with you, okay? So I'm not going to come on here and tell you guys that women can change the world and let's go out there and do it. It's like, okay, no, sis, let's talk about you first, right? Let's talk about you first, because if we can't talk about you, we can't talk about what you can do, right? Okay, so now you've done some work. You're starting to feel like you're growing. And sometimes, just so you know, that growth happens at the bottom. I always say, you know, there's a quote that says, rock bottom will teach you things that the mountaintop will never teach you. They say some things are best learned in the storm, some things in the calm. 2020 was a storm, but God, I grew so much. Oh, I think so many can say that, you know, in spite of everything, it pushed us, it stretched us, it made us reflect on what we could bear. And we found that we had resilience. We found that we had faith. We found that we had loved ones that cared about us. There were so many things that were revealed to us during this divine timeout, is what I call it. But the point is taking that time, right, to really reflect and then to say, what am I supposed to be doing with my time? Because one of the things that I always say is that if you're a Christian, if you're a believer, I am, but whatever faith you believe in, like I've said already, if it involves a higher being, then you know that you were created for something. In my belief, we believe that we were created in his image, in the actual image of him, which in a way, you know, makes us, you know, mini versions of him, mini gods, for lack of a better phrase. I mean, it's in the Bible, right? Which means that we are limitless, right? Which means that the only thing that's stopping us are stories that we've told ourselves. There are stories that maybe when you were younger, somebody told you that you're not very smart, and you decided to accept that, and you started applying that to all these areas of your life. You don't even know you're still doing it, but you're limiting yourself. Or maybe because you applied for a couple of jobs and you got rejected, now you think you're not good enough. So you're always playing small. Or you're just scared. You're scared of everything. You know, there's a book out by Lovey Ajayi. I love reading books. There's another one by Glennon Doyle called Untamed. Those 2 books are giving me life. And in Lovey's book, she talks about how fear was this emotion that, you know, God gave us to help make sure that we're not in the jungle dying from lions, tigers, or whatever, right? It's to help us know when to run, when to hide. But in modern days, what are we running from? What are we so scared of? If human beings have ever been safe, like in terms of history, it's now, even though things are still somehow, you know, but in terms of history, this is the safest we've ever been. We have technology, we have medication, we have, you know, hospitals. There was a time when they didn't have any of those things. But here we are, and we're still operating on the system of fear. Everything we want to do, we'll question it, die. If you want to try something, what will people think? And so, will anybody die? If anything, you can take the lessons you learned from when you tried and then do it again. Anyone that doesn't tell you that fear is a part of success is lying to you. Fear is part of the recipe. Failure is part of the recipe for success. It's all part of it. So at some point, you have to have that inner will to want to do more. And I always tell people your purpose is bigger than you. You know, people tell me, oh, maybe my purpose is being a parent. I think being a parent is an assignment. You know, it might be a expression of your purpose, but your purpose is something that goes beyond the people that you so naturally love. Because that would be easy to do. We'd all just be doing things for our family members, right? But what is purpose? And I always say purpose has to answer 4 questions. This is how you begin to define your walk. So you go back and you think to yourself, what do people think of me when they see me? What do they call me for most of the time? What do I enjoy doing, to the point that I can be doing this and I even lose track of time? Or I'm doing it and it's almost like I can do it for free. You're not going to do it for free, but you know, you can almost do it for free. We don't do things for free anymore. Sorry, ladies. We get the coins, you know? So the point that I'm making is there's a point in your journey when you have to start asking yourself, what is that thing that makes me tick? And if I've not found it yet, because some people haven't found it yet, and that's okay, but then that means that you owe it to yourself to remain curious, to keep learning. Because I tell people all the time that if you're not learning, if you're not growing, you're dying. You might be dead, right? So if you've not found it yet, try something, take a class, go do something that you're curious about, follow your curiosity. Your curiosity is what leads you to your purpose. And the questions you're going to ask is this something? You have to love what your purpose is. You got to love it. But here's the other question. Am I good at it? Because guess what? I love singing. Oh, I love singing in the shower, especially where it feels like I'm in a studio. It's like I'm hitting all the notes. It's just like, la, you know, it's like I'm hitting it. But I know I sound horrible. I know I'm not good at it. So it cannot be my purpose, y'all. I can like it. It can be a passion, maybe one that's terrorizing people. But guess what? It's not a purpose, right? So you got to love it. You got to be good at it. People have to say, when I think of this thing, I think of you. Or when I'm having this issue, it's you that I'll call. Or even at your job, you keep finding out that you keep getting this kind of assignments, right? Then 3, does the world need it? Does the world need it? Because guess what? If you have something that you love, you like doing, but the world doesn't need it, then the question becomes, what's your impact? You can call that a passion. You can call that a hobby, but you can't call that purpose. Can't call that purpose. And then 4th, which a lot of people leave out of the equation, is, can it sustain you? Can you make money off of it? Can you? Because purpose is not meant to be some sort of long-suffering thing. If God gives you gifts, he gave you those gifts so that you could use those gifts, not just to bless others, but to also bless yourself. Within reason. I don't want you guys to go and become some of these pastors, but that's a different conversation. But you know what I mean? Like, you want to be able to, use your gifts to sustain your life. You're not going to suffer. God is not going to give you gifts that are going to require you to suffer. But what you're going to do is that you're going to take that gift, you're going to harness it, and you're going to discover how to leverage it. So I'll give you an example of mine. I say purpose is like a bicycle wheel. I defined myself a while ago, right? And in the center of that bicycle wheel is the word impact. And the reason I knew that that was my purpose was because I've been in public service for a long time, probably since I was 17. I started working at the Red Cross. I was working at that job for God knows how long, years and years. On the weekend, I'll be going there, still teaching classes, life-saving processes. I just love teaching. I love making a difference. I love them saying, oh, I know CPR because of you. I helped somebody that was having a heart attack because of you. So I couldn't stop. So I did it for over a decade. Then I went to a school of public service. There, I studied city planning with a focus on housing development, community development, right, and economic development. I took that. That was my 9-to-5 job. But guess what? I was still driving impact. I was happy to get up at work for work in the morning. I was looking forward to the projects and the ideas that I had. I was expressing that purpose in that way, right? And then I came to Nigeria. I pivoted towards tech, but then I felt a calling towards women. And I said, whatever I do has to be impactful. I have to figure out a way to impact young women and to impact, girls. And so I started to do that's another manifestation. So think of it as what's at the center of your being and then how it manifests like spokes on a bike, right? So your purpose is not meant to be static. People that have told you that, oh, once you know your purpose, then you have to do that thing for the rest of your life. No. Figure out what makes you tick. And then think about all the ways that you can say yes to that thing. So if you're a storyteller, how many ways can you use that gift to elevate and amplify voices, to tell your own story, right? How do you do these things? That's how you think about it. If you love fixing things with your hands, what can you do? Can you train in your community how people can use their hands while you're also doing it as a job that's paying you? So your purpose can overlay many different activities within your life. But until you discover, not find, discover within you, and that again takes introspection, it takes time, it takes you questioning yourself, going for coaching, therapy, writing, journaling things down, talking to people around you, right? And that's what leads you there. But beyond that, also check your inner circle. Figure out if you're surrounding yourself with people that are pushing you to your upper limit, that are challenging you, that make you feel like, not competition, no, because that one gets a bit tricky. It's like we're here to collaborate, not to compete, but you're here to compete with yourself. But what I mean is when you see somebody else growing and they inspire you to think about how can I be growing? That's a positive thing, right? It's not to say I'm going against somebody. You're saying, I like what you're doing. How can I make it so that, and that person says, let me show you. And they show you, right? That's the kind of growth we're doing this year and forever, right? And also women, for you to do the introspection that you need to do, you need to rest. Rest. And I've been saying this to so many women this year, rest. This idea that we've had over time, booked and busy, grind culture, it has not served us. Black women, our essence is like this. Those sample perfumes they give at the airport and stuff, like that's how much I feel about my essence, like my vibe, my energy, who I am. I can't just be giving it anyhow. Not everything that calls my name is for me. Do you understand? So I can't just be distracting myself. And that's why every year I know what my focus is. At my retreat every year, that's what we do. 2 to 3 things. That's all I'm working on. But I'm going to go deep because I always tell people you can't determine the length of your life. We don't know how long we're here for, but you can determine the depth of it. So when you think about who you are and how you're going to change the world, don't think about it as what's going to be popular on social media, what's going to be sexy. Just go within yourself and think about how your gifts can be used to bless somebody. And even if all you do in this lifetime is bless 1, 2, 3, 4 people, and nobody else knows, and that those people you bless go on to bless other people, what we call the spillover effect, then you've done your job here. So I hope today I've said something to inspire you. I hope that you think about taking this year and just discovering more about who you are and then taking that gift, because it's a sin to have a gift. Somebody needs that gift you have. Somebody's life is depending on that gift that you're so scared to put out there, that you're so scared to do something with. Do something with it. It doesn't have to be big. It can be small. But think of something that you can do to give back and to change the world around you, because you have a gift and the world needs it. Thank you guys so much for your time. I honor you. Thank you for giving me the extra time to speak with you today. And I hope you're blessed. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tosin. That was magical. Actually, that's the word that I can use to describe that. So it sounded like you're just like saying some peaceful things in my ear. It's like, oh my God, right. That's lullaby. I'm going to fall asleep now and I'll be great tomorrow. So,
I'm telling you, do that. Do it well. Go and work.
Thank you. Yes. It felt like we were doing therapy, but at the same time it's yoga, but at the same time it was
you. No pressure. Guys, no pressure in this life. Go at your pace. Don't let social media, force you into anything. Don't let what people are doing. Your lane is your lane. Your gift is for you. And if you're not careful, you go into the exam hall, you'll be taking somebody else's exam, and then wonder why you failed. Take your own exam, face your own fronts, and it doesn't have to be this big thing. Do it for you, do it for your higher power. Okay? Thank you guys so much.
Justin. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, have a good evening. This has been amazing. Peace, are you on? You're on mute.
I've been talking. I've just been talking.
I know. I've been saying.
But yeah, hi, Tosin. Thank you so much. That was really amazing. I really enjoyed listening to you talk, first of all. So immediately you started like, oh yes, Tosin is talking again. But thank you for that really inspiring session. And Vanessa, thank you for making sure that we organized this and did this together.
I could not have done this without you guys, and I'm so excited that we did this, and now we have to do it again because we have to make this a thing for people. And I'm so excited that we did this. And thank you to the entire Women Meal team for the support, for the push, for the drive, and for us to eventually make this a reality. Everyone that was part of this, I thank you so much for being a part of it, for coming on and joining us. And please help me shout out to Women Meal. Please follow them on social media and just tell them thank you for this, so that we can keep doing this kind of thing. If you're not following Ingressive Capital, please follow Ingressive Capital at Ingressive Cap on social media, pretty much everywhere. And yeah, this was a good chat. I don't want to say goodbye, but we gotta say goodbye. So goodbye to everyone. And thank you. Have a good evening. And happy International Women's Day. Yay!
Bye guys. Bye.
All right, guys. Bye. Have a good evening.